Alright, it looks like we won the die roll here. So, this is two-land hand. Double Grasp of Darkness and an additional removal spell. It's a tough spot. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep this, but we definitely do need to draw lands. But with that being said, the Grasp of Darknesses mean that even if we don't draw them right away, we have some stuff to do. It's definitely a borderline hand. So our opponent's starting off with Sunken Hollow. We'll see what that means, hopefully, in a minute. Now that we've drawn Read the Bones, we really just want to hit our third land so we can cast the Read the Bones, but okay, our opponent's transgressing us, so it's pretty likely that this Read the Bones now gets taken away. Gideon would also be another consideration because that's one of our biggest threats in hand. So, okay, our opponent's going for the Gideon. So we don't actually know what our opponent's playing, but we do have our third land. So we're going to go ahead and Read the Bones here. But we don't actually know what we're looking for. Probably not more removal spells, since we already have 3 of them in hand. So more lands, planeswalkers, that type of stuff. We don't really want a second copy of Secure the Waste right now. Although it could be good later in the game. Our opponent's playing what seems to be a control deck, so Secure the Waste could be pretty good. I'm almost inclined to just take both of these. Alright, let's try taking both cards. Maybe that'll scare our opponent a little bit that we topped both. Alright, so here is a Liliana, but we do have an Anguished Unmaking, but it looks like our opponent's actually just going to immediately minus the Lily. So we have a Shambling Vents. I kind of like just going ahead and attacking the Lily and just getting it out of the way right now. Have to wonder if our opponent's playing some sort of zombie deck or what's going on exactly. Alright, we drew our own Transgress. I think this is probably a good opportunity to cast it, although we could wait. But yeah, let's go ahead and cast it. Hopefully this will give us more of an idea what's going on in this game. Alright, now we see a Haunted Dead, Ruinous Path, Grasp of Darkness. So we are going to take the Haunted Dead. And we know that we're kind of clearing a path now for our Secure the Waste tokens, our warrior tokens. Alright, so here's a Relentless Dead, which is pretty annoying, but we do have an Anguished Unmaking. So we're definitely not going to Grasp of Darkness, the Relentless Dead. We drew Gideon, but we know our opponent has a copy of Ruinous Path in hand. So I think we just pass the turn here. And we can Secure the Waste on our opponent's end of turn. And just take the 2 here from the Relentless Dead. So, yeah, I think we just go ahead and and get in with the warriors. We don't need to get out of line here. And I think we're pretty much locked into getting rid of this Relentless Dead, so let's just do that right away. Oh, our opponent has another one. Okay. Fair enough. And we drew a Read the Bones, so we've got a lot of cards in hand, for sure. That's for sure. We could Read the Bones here. We could also cast a Gideon. We do know that our opponent has a Ruinous Path and a Grasp in hand, but I think we can still cast this Gideon. So yeah, let's just get the Gideon into play and make a 2/2. If our opponent Ruinous Paths it, that's perfectly fine. And we're just going to pass back here. If the Relentless Dead does die, at least our opponent doesn't have anything to get back. There's no zombies in the graveyard. So, it looks like the Ruinous Path is going after the Gideon, but that's okay, because we have a second one. So, we can just go ahead and grasp the Relentless Dead. I think that's what we probably should do. And then we can also Read the Bones after the grasp resolves. So let's go ahead and get rid of this Relentless Dead. And our opponent's predictably going to return it to their hand. But now we have a free hit of 5 damage, basically. And then second main, we are going to go down to 8 to cast this Read the Bones. And we don't really need the Planar Outburst or the Caves of Corlos for that matter. Okay. So we're looking in fine shape. This matchup doesn't feel great. But we've got a lot of card advantage, and our opponent hasn't done a whole lot, to be honest. So, okay, here's Prized Amalgam and Relentless Dead showing up for our opponent. And our draw step here is Ob Nixilis. So, we've got a bunch of options here, actually. We can just pass and then plan on playing Secure the Waste during our opponent's end of turn, which I think is probably our best option. We could also play a Planeswalker here, but I think we can just make Ormondal on our next turn, so we don't really need to do too much this turn. And yeah, I like our spot here. We've got answers to whatever our opponent's up to. We don't really need to block here. Yeah, we can afford to take a hit here from the Relentless Dead. And there's basically only one unknown card in our opponent's hand. If it were to be another Grasp of Darkness, that would be pretty bad because that could get rid of our Ormondal. But I think we still just go ahead and commit here to Ormondal. Well, we could actually, on second thought, we can actually play Gideon and make an emblem. That seems better, because we can just win this turn, potentially. Alright, let's do that. We don't even need to mess around with Ormondal here. And okay, that's going to be the game. So, let's go on to the sideboard here. So we know that the exile stuff was quite good. Getting rid of our opponent's Haunted Dead with the Transgress was nice. I think we want another Transgress. And we want another Anguished Unmaking. Thought Knot is another card we can consider here. Linvala, just to go over the top, is another option. And Kalidas is quite good. So we've got a lot of good cards. Infinite Obliteration isn't bad here, but we've got a lot of cards we're already bringing in. Some of the spot removal type stuff we can take out. So, yeah, cards like Grasps and Oaths, I think we don't really need them. Ruinous Path is also not the best. I think we can board in Infinite Obliteration if we want to in this matchup. And yeah, this seems pretty reasonable. Although the Planner Outbursts and the Languishes are also only okay. We might want to keep in some early removal. Yeah, I don't think we really need the Planner Outbursts. Or really the Languishes for that matter. Grasp of Darkness can kill a turn 2 Relentless Dead, which is pretty nice. And we just want to have stuff to do early on. I haven't played this blue-black matchup that much, but let's try this configuration. We'll see. We also, with Kalidas in play, any removal spell is good, so even though Grasp doesn't match up all that well against the deck, it's still just one of the key cards in the deck, so I don't think we can just board out all of our spot removal. And we see a Grasp in our opener here, along with Infinite Obliteration, so we definitely are going to probably try to hit blind on this Infinite Obliteration because we don't have a Transgress the Mind or anything else to set it up. And now we see Jace. So we're actually quite happy to be able to have this Grasp of Darkness here to just go ahead and get rid of the Jace. And here's a Crypt Breaker. That can definitely... And a Jace. So this draw is actually pretty good from our opponent. And it's putting us in a tough spot. I think we actually are kind of forced to cast the Read the Bones here. Just to try to dig for something because we've been drawing all land. And I think we can take the Howl of Moonlight because it's pretty solid against Crypt Breaker, but we're just kind of flooding out here a bit. So our opponent is going to be able to loot here with Jason. Even if, things are not looking that great this game, we can definitely think about what our opponent's doing and change our sideboard strategy if necessary. If our opponent is able to force another game here. So we just haven't really had a good opportunity to use this Infinite Obliteration, unfortunately. And our opponent is attempting to use this Haunted Dead, so we're going to go ahead and Howl of Moonlight here to stop that from happening, and we could actually go ahead and cast Omnixilis soon. But it looks like our opponent is going to main phase the Haunted Dead. And this is when we actually wish we had a Wrath effect, and we don't. But we've drawn so many lands. It's pretty unfortunate here. So we're definitely not in a great spot. Gonna go ahead and run out the Omnixilis though. And I think just draw a card. We're basically looking for something like a Kalidas in order to stabilize here, but the game's getting pretty out of hand. Transgress at this point, at this stage in the game, the Infinite Obliteration and Transgress are not really going to help us, and it looks like our opponent picked up a Liliana here. I wouldn't say we're out of it, but we are in a rough spot. And looks like these attacks are going at the Omnixilis. So we just don't really have anything we can do here. We can cast Infinite Obliteration, but it wouldn't really do anything. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this Shambling Vents available to block. We don't want to attack with it because our opponent could have blocked with Jace and then flipped it and basically negated our attack completely. So at least now we have the Shambling Vents. We can block the Haunted Dead. And we know our opponent has another Jace Vryn's Prodigy in hand. So we drew Gideon here. Interesting. So we can just play Gideon. That's not really going to get us that far, unfortunately. I think I would rather activate the Shambling Vent here and try to get in and attack. Alright, so we were able to get rid of the Liliana. But I believe our opponent is planning on bringing back the Haunted Dead. So I guess we might as well cast Infinite Obliteration, but I expect our opponent to respond with activating the Haunted Dead. So yeah, it looks like our opponent's considering whether to use Crypt Breaker or Haunted Dead, and it looks like the answer is Haunted Dead. So, yeah, I'm just going to name Prized Amalgam here. We see our opponent's deck, which is nice. We see Slumguard's Command. We see Voldaren Pariah. Ruinous Paths. Relentless Dead, Duress, Distended Mindbender. So we see a lot of what's going on here. And it's going to help us prepare for the next game. Assuming that there is a next game. We're definitely behind. But there's cards that could get us out of this situation. Secure the Waste would be a great draw. A card like Sorin could help get us back into it. Kalidas would still be quite nice. But yeah, it looks like our opponent's just going to get aggressive here, which makes a lot of sense. And once again, our draw is pretty much a brick. So we can just play this Gideon out. But our opponent may, rather than attack Gideon, may start attacking straight at us. We'll see if that's the case or not. So, just going to go ahead and block Haunted Dead to take less damage. Our opponent already has one in the graveyard, so putting a second one in the graveyard isn't really that relevant. Alright, here's a Hallowed Moonlight. Not sure that's really going to help much, but we can go ahead and fire up Shambling Vents nonetheless. And here we have an opportunity to simply Hallowed Moonlight to prevent this 2/2 from coming into play, so that definitely seems like the right choice. We're not completely out of it here. We drew another copy of Gideon, so gaining life is pretty relevant at this stage, but our opponent might just swing with everything. So we're forced to chump the Prized Amalgam and take 4 down to 2. And there's Kalidas. So Kalidas is not a bad card here, but the question is whether it's too little too late. So we can play Kalidas, but we do have to gain some life this turn, so we have to activate the Shambling Vent. We can also cast Transgress the Mind this turn, even though it's likely not to do anything for us. But let's go ahead and do that. Alright, we see that our opponent has just a land in hand, which is pretty much to be expected. So we're forced to play Kalidas and then activate Shambling Vent. And I think we actually want to make Gideon into a creature here. So we're going to be able to get rid of Jace and then attack our opponent. So we're not dead on board right now. Our opponent could definitely draw something that would do it, but currently the 2 spirits would bring us down to 2 life. So we're kind of clawing our way back in, potentially. Our opponent's got 2 cards in hand, which means Haunted Dead may be able to return once again from the graveyard, and that's definitely worrisome. But our opponent... Okay, so yeah, our opponent is just going to draw a card using Cryptbreaker, which makes sense. Here's a Transgress the Mind. That's going to take away our Gideon, so it means we're pretty much hoping to draw some sort of gas here. And our opponent's plan looks to be to bring back Haunted Dead. And there's a Grasp of Darkness. So that's not a bad one to draw, for sure. And this may be the time to try to get aggressive. So we have a Grasp. I think we want to go ahead and grasp the Prized Amalgam. And we can actually, if we want to, and it looks like our opponent's just going to concede. They see that Kalidas is going to take care of the game. Basically, we're going to be able to sacrifice our zombie to Kalidas. And it looks like that's probably going to do it. So, pretty crazy game, but it looks like our opponent has seen enough. Kalidas basically... I don't think our opponent has any answers. We can just make Kalidas into a 5/6 lifelinker, plus Gideon, and activate Channeling Vent, and it looks like that's just good enough. So, our opponent's just going to concede. I wasn't expecting that, but that is going to be the match here.